All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Purpose Served podcast. I have a really special guest with me today. She's an artist. Most importantly, I was going to say painter, but I feel as though that won't do it any justice, you know. But it's a bunch of amazing art that I seen that, she's created, and which led me to saying like she has to be on this podcast to pretty much go inside her mind a little bit and see how she comes about making some of her work and even talking about, some of the things that inspires her and motivates her to, keep expressing herself to the fullest of her ability. Because to me, as you guys know, I feel as though that's just like the highest form of expression that you can live is just living your purpose and living the thing that you're extremely passionate about. And it was one of those, I told her, like, I seen it immediately from her works that, oh man, she's definitely a purpose-driven person, you know. So the one thing that I will start off by asking was just like, what started it all for you with your art journey?
So I would say I was always interested in art. I know that's kind of like boring, but yeah, I kind of grew up doing art. I was always in front of the television, like watching my cartoons and trying to like draw them. And then my grandma put me in art classes, and it just kind of took off from there. I think my family kind of hoped it would be more of like, just a hobby, but I can't not do art,
Oh, for real? So when you first started, what would you say is like your first inspirations from, like, I guess, shows and stuff like that and cartoons?
I definitely loved Looney Tunes. I just did a couple pieces on Looney Tunes. So I loved Looney Tunes and just like anything Disney. And I was actually, when I went to school for art, I started out as an animation major, and then I quickly learned I did not like being trapped in a computer lab and being on the computer all the time, and I'd rather make things with my hands. So that kind of steered me away from that and towards painting.
So like with me, like I wouldn't consider myself an artist, but I wouldn't want to say I like to draw. So I'm like a sketching kind of person. And,
Yeah.
I was that type of person also in like high school, middle school. Instead of taking notes, I'm like drawing comics in my notebooks and stuff like that. I was that type of person. But I would want to say it looks extremely difficult. I'm not even going to lie, to go from using like a pencil to like a brush. You know what I mean? It seems like it's that much easier to like mess up. How often does that happen when you like work on something? It's like, oh man, what am I about to do about that?
So I try to take steps to help me, with that. So like when I start a piece, like I'll either draw it out or I do like an underpainting, or I do both. I draw it out and then do the underpainting and then I paint on top of it. So each process I'm fixing and adjusting, so I'm getting everything right. And I'm, when the final piece comes out, I'm not like, wow, I never noticed that his ear was way too big, or like, something was totally misproportioned. So I try to take steps to, fix that and help me not, mess up as badly as it could have gone.
And now, is that like a difficult process to go through sometimes? It would sometimes take you a while to like, all right, maybe I need to take a step back from this a little bit and then go right back into it. Or normally, do you just like stormtrooper your way through it?
Some pieces, I just want to jump right into it, but I've been learning it's just better to, start from scratch and build it up, and don't try to jump right into, colors and proportions and, all at once, because you'll get confused, you'll forget stuff. So it just helps in the long run if you just take your time and do it step by step and build it up, really.
If anything, like with what you just said, I feel as though people can apply that to pretty much anything in the realm of like, you're going about it where you're taking your time, and also you got to even plan beforehand before you even put everything together, instead of, I'm about to just jump right into it. So even with me, I'm learning like that same exact thing, because I would say I'm the type of person that if I have an idea about something, the very first thing that I do want to do is just jump straight in the pool, you know what I mean? And just go all in with it. But I noticed with doing that process, it's just like, oh man, I should have took a step back and planned out the steps beforehand, instead of just now, I got to correct my mistakes on the go while doing that. And I know like with art, it's just like you can reach that point a lot of times, if you're not careful enough about the
Yeah.
ideas that you're trying to manifest,
Yeah.
on the canvas that you're using. And
Hmm.
does that also help, I would want to say, with uh doing other tasks when it comes to like completing the artwork and everything, like giving you that confidence, like, okay, I had something in my head that I want to do. I actually created it. You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah.
apply that like kind of mindset to other things outside of art?
Yes, I'm a very organized person, so I make lists all the time. So it's like, oh, I got a list of what I'm gonna do today, and then like I've got a list of like underneath those, subjects. Like, oh, I got to work on this painting, and then I've got a list on what exactly I got to work on under those paintings. So and I don't think there's anything more satisfying than crossing something off the list and moving on to the next the next thing.
No, seriously, like I'm not even gonna lie, I definitely get huge satisfaction out of that, as well, because it's like it's an awesome thing knowing that this is something that I really wanted to do and I
Yeah.
actually got it done. It may
Yeah.
seem like a small thing, but to
Hmm.
actually get over that hump of doing
Hmm.
whatever it is that you set out to do, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like a euphoric feeling. I'm not even gonna lie.
It really boosts your confidence too, because then you rely on your word. Like you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it, and it doesn't become like, all right, something that never gets done, and then you're disappointing yourself. So yeah.
So was these like reverting back to my like original question?
Mhm.
So these are some of the habits. Would you say art created that, or was it already there before that point?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that art definitely, helped me become more disciplined, because that's like, I definitely went through a period after college where I wasn't painting and I did not feel like myself. I was just like, I remember having like a breakdown, like, I'm a painter that doesn't paint,
No,
and that,
for real.
that kind of like kicked my ass into gear. And I was like, I just gotta do the work. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
This is a concept I preach literally all the time on this
Yeah.
podcast. At this point, it's just that even when you're not really motivated to do
Hmm.
something, it's something about showing up and just doing the
Yep.
work, even when you don't feel like it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I know there's
Yep.
moments and times where you just be like, I don't feel like painting, but
Yep.
I'm about to show up and just do
Yep.
what my body is needing me to do to get this task done. And
Yeah.
through that, to me, is like it takes you to another level where
Hmm.
you only looking at the task at hand and
Yep.
using your passion for it to drive it through, even if you don't
Hmm.
feel like doing it. And I'm so big on that.
Hmm. I've learned that showing up is the hardest part. And then once you start, you're always you feel way better after you do it, and you always get way more into it than you even expected. But once you show up and start, like, you're always like, wow, I'm glad I did this. I've never ever felt like, terrible after I actually showed up for something I needed or wanted to do.
That goes to show,
Hmm.
for one, you're a consistent person. For
Yeah.
two, you're disciplined. And that's like those two things I always say that,
Hmm.
as long as you chasing your passion and you have those two things, you're always
Hmm.
going to keep yourself in the race. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
worst thing that you can do is literally
Yeah.
keep yourself out of the race. You know,
Yeah.
hypothetically speaking, right? Say you
Hmm.
did have that mindset and it was just like, I'm a painter, and you just continue on, you know,
Hmm.
with not painting,
Hmm.
probably wouldn't even be like, doing this podcast and creating some of the works that you
Yeah.
have and all the other things and doors that it
Hmm.
opens up from just showing up and doing the work. It's an
Yeah.
awesome thing.
Yeah, even small progress is progress. So like, I was telling a friend, I think the other day, that like, I can't fail. If I keep moving forward, I cannot fail. It's only if I quit that I'm gonna fail. So even if it's the tiniest step forward, it's at least forward.
Oh no, seriously. And what are like, I want to say, like, what are the mindsets that you go through the day with in order for you to even stay on task, like every day, to stay like, this is it every day?
So a big thing for me is I have to work out in the morning. I feel like, when I show up and I push myself in the gym, it translates itself, that translates to my life, like, oh, I can go a lot further than I think I can, and I can do a lot more than I think I can. So that really gets my, like, me going, and I perform way better if I've worked out beforehand, during the day. So that really, having that alone time to really go through what I'm like while I'm running. I'm like, all right, what do I have to do today? I'm making another list in my head. And the second I get off and I go home, I know exactly what I'm going to do, where I'm going to start, and where I'm going from there. So that's a big thing for me.
Do you, I see some of the times you get up like sometimes really early,
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself like a morning person?
Yes, I would. I don't know. I go back and forth between like a night owl and early bird, but I definitely love waking up early, getting my day started. And then, I feel like when I wake up late, I'm already like, all right, I could have gotten so much done, but I was sleeping. And that's just a waste of time.
Oh my God, that's crazy. I literally think like that like all the time. Like
Mhm.
sometimes, like for me, I
Mhm.
just recently got out of this crazy hiatus of getting up at like 4:30 in the morning,
Mhm.
to work out. But like what you just said, I noticed that around between 4 and 6 o'clock, I wouldn't really say six, but I'll say 4 and 5. It
Mhm.
seemed like the world around me was like absolutely quiet, and I can hear my
Yeah.
thoughts so clearly. And
Mhm.
it's crazy those thoughts that come about. They oftentimes are extremely uncomfortable. Like them
Yeah.
things like, all right, you got to get out the bed. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
go and work out. And it's just
Yeah.
like, oh man, I
Uh-huh.
can hear it clearly. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but it was something special about those times where I didn't listen, and like what you just said, and just showing up
Yeah.
to the gym or whatever, to the basketball
Mhm.
court, and doing whatever it is I had to do. And
Mhm.
also just knowing that while everybody sleep, you don't have no distractions around you.
Yeah.
And it seemed like
Mhm.
that's why that clarity is like
Yeah.
even there in the first place. So I feel as though the morning times, like that's when, for me personally as well, I'm the
Mhm.
most productive and can get the most done,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
because my phone is like not going off like real
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
and
I
everything.
try not to go on my phone in the morning. Just like let me focus on what I need to, get done for the day and make a list, and then, I can check.
So how long would it take you typically in the morning to like go and check your phone, like to really be on your phone?
So I mean, I use my phone as my alarm. So like I have to turn my alarm off, and then like I use it basically strictly for like music and stuff when I'm at the gym, or like, I love listening to like inspirational podcasts and stuff to
Keep you
motivate
motivated.
me throughout my day. Like Ed Milet, like he's a great motivational speaker. Listening to him while I'm at the gym really, could get you heading in the right direction for the rest of the day. Um,
See, like with me, I'm literally I like thinking in the realm of, especially when I'm
mhm.
challenging myself, to really just keep myself in that mind state
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
keeping my energy level high, keeping me in ways where I'm thinking of new ideas that I want to act on. And plus,
Mhm.
it just seems like when you're not when you're not in that space of challenging yourself, it's so much
Mhm.
easy to take a step back and not really go after the things that you really want to do. And it kind of creates, for me, procrastination, stagnation. If you don't
Mhm.
keep up with like a schedule like that and listening to things like that,
Mhm.
that's why I feel as though listening to inspirational things, motivational things, and things that's pertaining to your higher self, I think
Mhm.
that that's what most people should go for, especially if they
Yeah.
don't feel like they have that passion or purpose or drive that they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely listening to someone, who's, also going through it helps. So I always try to post like motivational stuff on my stories,
Yeah, I
because
see.
you never know who's looking and who needed it that day.
Oh no, seriously.
Mhm.
That's pretty much why I even started this podcast,
Mhm.
because it was coming from when things got really, really difficult on my journey.
Mhm.
It was like always going out and trying to find that thing to keep me going instead of having
Mhm.
me fall short. And I
Yeah.
really didn't see anything consistently, out there pretending like that. Yeah, I would have to find things, but I would have to go out my way all the time, because after a
Mhm.
while, listening to the same motivational video and inspirational video just don't cut it. It's like you
Mhm.
always got to find something new. And I
Yeah.
figured why not just do it myself, you know, since I'm extremely passionate about it.
Yeah. That's a great idea. When I first started posting the inspirational stuff, it was mostly for me. I was just posting it so that I could look at it and be like, all right, I was going through that. This is what I need to think when I'm feeling like that kind of thing. And I had so many people reach out to me like, oh, this is great. Thanks for posting this. Needed this today. That I was like, all right, like I'll just post more of this because it really helps people.
No, it actually does, you know, and I know for a fact with the artwork that you make as well, it gives people that similar feeling as some of the motivational stuff that put up. And what would you say is the best work that you made so far when you were in a place of feeling like not that motivated?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it was probably a self-portrait I did of myself. I was feeling terrible, just I don't know, about life, about myself, everything. And I was like, you know what? Let me paint a self-portrait to express how I'm feeling and kind of reflect on where I am in life. And, so it really helped me just painting through it and about like my feelings about my life, and it showing up on the, canvas was really interesting. And it helped me work through it. Just
Wow.
being in my own head, thinking about it. So, yeah.
Well, how long did making that piece take you?
Ooh, I want to say like maybe 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
It was a while ago, and I had the canvas for a while, and I was like, I really want to do something on it. And then I kind of like did this abstract like drip painting on the background, and I was like, what can I turn this into? And then like one day it just hit me. I was like, I felt like I was submerged underwater, so it was like me coming out of the water, like I was drowning, but I was still had my head above water, and like getting myself out of that.
Wow. That's actually crazy. That just made me even think, it's crazy like to sit there and like visualize that. But how often do you use your imagination to get you out of a place where it's just like, all right, this is not the creative mind space that I need to be in? Because it seemed like we're doing art and painting that you have to always be tapped in to that side that's just like where your imagination is just like the number one thing.
What helps me is laughter. I gotta make myself laugh, whether that means if I gotta go on like, look at some memes or like, like watch something funny. Like if I'm really feeling out of it, I take like maybe a half hour, maybe an hour to do something I really, really want to do, or something that's really gonna like put me in the right mindset, and then I go do it. Like laughter really helps me. It gets you out of any kind of funk you're really in.
Yeah, because at that point, if you really think about it, if you are going out your way to be upset, you know what I mean? At that point, if you see something funny and you don't laugh, it's like, okay, you want to be mad. You want to sit there and be mad, So that is good, you know what I mean? And also, laughter is definitely a great vibration raiser, you know what I mean? And a feel good. And you use that as an inspiration sometimes for some of your works as well?
It depends on like what I'm working on. So like if it's like a commission, there's like some more limitations that I have to work with. But like one thing is I always try to use like bright colors, like happy, that's just like how I am. So I just want that to translate to the works that I'm creating, because I mean, the world, everyone tries to stay mad, you know what I mean? So it's
for like, real. That is true. Like I notice, and I think a lot of people do, it's just like kind of taboo and unspoken, that a lot of things that we see on a daily basis, it kind of just brings us down, through social media and just broadcasting and marketing things, period. It's almost as if it's in a way trying to put you in some form of fear, so we don't even get a lot of that, that's why it seems like that's why it's so easy and to see somebody mad and upset about something all the time. And
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, and for me, when people are expressing themselves, like, for example, the way that you're expressing yourself, that's like the ultimate version of what everybody's trying to do, but they just don't know a way to go about it.
I was gonna say, if you're staying mad, you're really only hurting yourself. So like, do you want to just sit there and wallow and like, no one's gonna come save you. You got to do that for
Yeah.
yourself. So you know, you do what you got to do to get out of it. You know, don't sit there and sulk in it.
Out all day.
It'll just make it worse. Yeah.
And people just seem like, for the most part, they always just waiting for that lifeline in regards to them feeling like that, or even taking their initiative to do something that they seriously want to do, when it's ultimately going to boil you down to, do you really, are you willing to do this or not? You know?
Yeah.
And from people from different forms of expression, me making this podcast, the other people that I had on this podcast and what they're doing and what you do, you went out your way and you were so passionate and willing to create art that you actually did it, you know, and people only see the end result, but they don't see how much work that actually goes into all the art that you make, you know? And
Yeah.
for me, that's the beautiful part, is the building process of it, getting to that point, and not necessarily, you know, the end result, because there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I eventually like want to like show more of like my process and stuff. You know, sometimes it's slow, so it's like, I don't want to bore you. You know, it's just it might not look any different to you, but it does to me.
Yeah. So what are the different like techniques that you use when you paint and stuff like that?
So I'm still learning a bunch. Like, you know, every time I paint something for someone, I'm learning too, which is always like motivating for me, because I'm like, oh wow, like how can I do this better than the last time I had to do this? This painting, I'm working on a pet portrait right now, and I'm trying some new techniques where I'm like a little bit more like washy with the colors. I use oil paints primarily, so like watering down oil paints, you know, water and oil don't mix. I have to use like a paint thinner and stuff. So it's like it's different technique with the medium that I'm working with. But I kind of just stumbled upon it because I was like, I think this will be a more effective way for me to like replicate fur. Just like layers of like this washy, like, so, and I've just started this for this painting now. So every time I do a painting, I swear I'm trying new techniques I've learned or like seen someone do, and I'm like, oh, let me save that and try that next time and see if that works better for me, because I feel like I'm still just developing as an artist myself.
Do you think that that's a never-ending quest, a never-ending journey? Do you ever feel like you're going to reach that point that you're looking for?
I don't know. I mean, I'm all in it for the journey. You know, I just want to become the best possible version of myself. So, I mean, everyone can improve. So you just keep looking for how you can make it better.
See, this is how I knew I was correct. That you're in it for the long haul. The
Yes.
fact that you literally just said that I'm doing this for the highest version of myself, that means that you really do care about what you're doing, you know? And most people, I feel as though they get it backwards when it comes to choosing something because of what they think that they're going to get out of it. And most things don't go ideally how we think it's going to go. We oftentimes get those reality checks where it's just like, this ain't going to be it, buddy, you know?
Yeah.
But due to the fact, like, for example, with what you're doing, you're so involved in it that it's just like, it's you as more importantly about the art of improving on something that you really love doing. That's like the most important thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I noticed that with people that's really good at what they do, and that the people that's really successful is they literally have that trait right there. And most people look for results. And I try to preach on this podcast as well that before you get to that point, you have to choose something that you absolutely care about, you know, and that you're willing to put in the work even when you don't feel like it. That's highly important.
Yeah. That's the hardest part really, is when you don't feel like it. So
Yeah.
like, you can't really wait around to be motivated. You just have to rely on discipline, like
Oh yeah. I
power through
just
it.
I just implemented a freaking 7-day schedule, and I'm not a planning person. I'm sort of good at it, but I'm starting to take what I'm doing extremely, extremely serious, and I'm at the point where I don't want to leave anything to chance. If it's anywhere tangible, I want to be able to control that narrative. So anything that's intangible, that I'm prepared for it in some way, shape, or form. You know, so that's why I try to get people to even get that idea in their head that you have to have all the tools ready for when you have those moments you don't feel like doing it, that you care that much that it's still going to get done no matter what. Because I know you probably have that point now, since you've been doing it for so long, that happens more often than it is not happening, you know?
Yeah, right now, like, I'm like, either way, I'm like, regardless, I'm like, I just need to keep painting. Just keep painting. Bottom line is like, even if I don't think anything's going the right way, or like, and I've realized though, is like, more people don't know what the fuck they're doing than not, you know? So it's like, as long as you just like keep powering through, you're gonna figure it out.
You're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
No, that's true, you know? And I always base things off of just trying to have a middle line between thinking rationally and feeling rationally, and not really lean on one more than the other, you know, because due to the fact of what you just said, we don't really know. We don't know about tomorrow. We don't know about pretty much anything until after the fact. And I'm really, really, I guess, critical about myself on, I don't know, just making sure that I have everything that I need to get my tasks done every day in order to just maintain the discipline that you needed to get something done. Most people don't. I don't know, you know? I feel as when you don't actively engage in your craft, it seems like you're taking a step back, you know, from that person that you really want to be. And how do you go about just staying involved in it, you know, through painting and everything?
One thing that helps me is like when I don't feel like painting, or like, you know, I'm really having a hard time, is I look at other people's art. Like, that inspires me. I'm like, wow, that's really good. And I'm like, I bet I could do that. Like, then that, you know, that gets me like wanting to try it, you know.
Yeah,
I
new
think
things.
curiosity is my biggest motivator. I'm like, can I do that? Like, I'd like to see, like, and then like see how I could make it better or change it and make it my own. Like, so yeah, that really helps. And so if you're like, oh, like, you're playing basketball, like, and you don't know how to improve, like, look at someone that's like way better, you know,
Oh
famous
my
like
God.
player, like, you know, like, what are they doing? Or try to learn like a move that they do, you know. That'll just like, you just have to keep yourself interested, really.
That's honestly like how my basketball journey even started. Like what you just said, Kobe Bryant is my favorite player of like all time. That's why I said like that picture resonated me. But some of the things that I seen him do, I used to be like, all right, I want to learn how to do that. I don't know how to do that, but it looks cool. But I'm gonna try to go out there and do that. And the more I kept doing things like that, I started realizing like my body started understanding it was like doing what he was doing naturally. You know what I mean? Of course, nowhere near, you know, that level, but you know, still going about it in that manner. But I was gonna say it can be discouraging for some people to look at other people's stuff and be like, oh man, I'm not as good as that and all of that. So how do you even set that mental parameter to make sure that that don't even happen to you?
I try not to compare myself, because everyone's uh like good in their own right, you know what I mean? Like in their own, like in their own way, their artwork is great, you know. It's just like, for me, I'm like, oh well, like, how can I make mine better, you know? Like, and I try not to like get too wrapped up in that, you know. I know like being perfect and like all, that can really take over someone's mind. So it's more of like letting that go, and like, let's see what happens, like, let's see where we can go with this, and not taking it so, I mean, like, you I am pretty hard on myself, but then like there are times where I gotta check myself, you know, and be like, you need to chill, like Like, you can't compare yourself to somebody else's journey. Like, it's completely different. But if there's somewhere you want to go, a direction you want to head in, and you're like, wow, I really like this artwork and I want to be more like loose with my brush strokes or something like that, then start trying to implement that in your stuff, you know?
That's a great way
Mm-hmm.
of always managing progress with the work that you're doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you're taking things that like I want to say you probably use other people artwork and anything to improve on some of the weaknesses that you have with some of the things that you notice. And
Mm-hmm.
do you find yourself all the time trying to work on those weaknesses, or is it one of those things where you necessarily don't even think about it when you be working on your art?
I think so. Like, now it's kind of like I'm not like really thinking about it, and then like it's like after a while I'm like, wow, I'm noticing that I'm doing this differently, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, and then I try to figure out where where that's coming from, you know, or
Right.
like where I'm really trying to go with that. But like, you're normally I have a list, so it's like I know where I'm coming from or where I want to go. So the list really helps you stay on track, really.
Do
Because
you?
and I write everything down. Like, if I
Oh,
got an
I was literally
idea,
about to ask you
yeah,
that. Is it in your notes or do you actually write it down?
yeah, I write everything down. If I'll like wake up in the morning and I'm like, ooh, I've got an idea. I write it down. Even if I never like execute that idea like for a painting right then and there, I've got a list. If I'm ever feeling like stuck, I've got a list of ideas that I thought of that I could go back to and try. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, that was a really cool idea. Let me try to do that now that I've got some free time and try to like, you know, improve that way.
This is why I'm happy that you said that. That's something that I literally say all the time on this podcast, like how important it is to write things down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it gives me clarity. And not only that, there's so much things that's jumbled in our heads that
Yep.
is
Yeah.
it's hard to think about it clearly if it stays there due to the
Mm-hmm.
fact that our minds is just like, all right, you think about one thing and then it automatically jumps to the next thing. But for
Yeah.
me, writing things down and writing my goals down, not even my goals, just in general, it
Mm-hmm.
gives me a sense of an idea of what exactly I have to do and the
Mm-hmm.
way I have to go about the thing that I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And do you write, I would want to say, the ideas that you got for your project that you're doing as well?
Yeah, like I'll write down, like, it depends on how, like, let's say vivid my vision is, you know, like if I'm like, wow, I really got something like more figured out, like I'll write down as much as I can about it. Sometimes, you know, it's my note is so like broad that like I'll look back and not even know where I was trying to go with that. But then like then that can spark a completely different idea, because you're like, what did I mean by this? And then now you're on a completely different path, but that writing that down still helped you get like make a step forward and make a decision. So
Oh man.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know about, like, I would want to say like for me, it was necessarily, it started out as affirmations, and I didn't really know, like, you know, what was going on when I was writing down, I would want to say the affirmations, but those affirmations turned into goals, and then the goals turned into what I specifically was really trying to do, to like a
Mm-hmm.
more, I guess, everyday thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, it turned into me writing why I'm trying to do something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and how I plan on going about doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that, you know, from writing in my journal, the transformation of when I first started writing things down to how it transpired today is just,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have made that jump, you know, to how I started writing now, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that I just started writing things
Mm-hmm.
down in general
Yeah.
to begin with, you know, because I'll pretty much be lost in the sauce with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I have so many ideas. I'm like, what the heck? I can't even focus on what I'm doing because I've got this other idea that's like so strong in my head that like, and sometimes I have to take a break. I have to stop what I'm doing just to get that one out so I could go back to it. So it's really like how you're feeling in that moment, you know, and really just listening to yourself, you know, like, all right, like, you know, what's going to help me really power through this?
What are some of the things that you do to get good at listening to yourself? Because that was actually kind of pivotal that you said that. It's very important on our journeys to
Mm-hmm.
really do what you just said. So what are some of the things that you do to tap into that?
Um, hmm. That's hard because, you know, like this morning I woke up and I did not want to go to the gym. And that's like, you know, sometimes that's, like I said, showing up is the hardest thing. And I probably laid in bed for like 10 minutes, like contemplating going back to sleep. And then like, I've been really working on that inner voice not being negative, like my inner voice, instead of being like, oh, you know, just go back to sleep. But like, I had my other voice come like, and it was like, it's like, you know, you'll feel better after you go. Just get up and go. Like, just get there and go. Even if you don't like do anything there, at least you went there. And then like, I was like, all right, yeah, I'll just go. Like, you know, so how you talk to yourself really, really matters.
Oh yeah, seriously, because it's not the best voice that wins; it's the loudest
Yeah.
voice that
Yeah.
typically win. You know,
Yeah.
so it's about overpowering one over the other. And
Yeah.
God honest truth, I would want to say for like 5 years that was like a problem with me where I was listening to one side more than the other. You know, but at this point, I got so good at one side dominating the other that
Yeah.
once I immediately hear
Yeah.
it at this point, it's just like, we know what we got to do, you know?
And you know what can help like some people with that is that writing down like before you go to bed, like what your intentions are for the next day. So then you've thought about it the night before and you're sleeping on it. So you're like, it's in your subconscious. You're like aware of like, you know, you've got the stuff to do tomorrow. So then when you wake up, you're not like smacked, like surprised, like what am I going to do? Like, you know, like you've already figured it out.
Oh man, like
Yeah.
that preparation, I'm so
Yeah.
big on preparation, which, you know, I don't know. It's better results in the end when you're taking action rather than just going out and doing something and you're not prepared. You're just
Yeah.
pretty much putting yourself in a hot seat and
Yeah.
just saying
Yeah.
like, whatever happens, I hope I'm ready for it, you know, and just
Yeah.
hope I come out alive for it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why I even said like 10 minutes ago, it's best to just have a plan and prepare. And for me,
Yeah.
since I'm such at a pivotal point in my life, I felt as though making a schedule Monday through Sunday, you know, and incorporating all the priorities that I had to with, you know, putting in a proper rest was so important for me
Yeah.
trying to get to where I'm trying to go. And I'm not even a planner, you know?
Yeah.
So it's
And
just like,
see, as you do that, you'll get better at that and you'll, you know, improve there. So it's all, you know, you just got to start. You really just have to start. And then if you don't like where it's going, you change. You make it better, make it work for you.
and I know you probably had that moment at the gym when you first got to the gym. You was like, okay, at this point, the hardest part is actually over. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'm here, you know, and
Yeah.
it's oftentimes that, you know, we really look at it, the hardest part is, you know, showing up and doing the work, because after that, it just seemed like our body just naturally just do what we needed to do, you
Yeah.
know, we're highly adaptive creatures.
It's our mind that's messing with us, really.
Yeah, for real, you know, and it's it's good to have things out there that you're doing on a daily basis to keep your mind sharp. And even with you starting first thing in the morning to go to the gym, Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? You're sharpening that to a fine point by doing that first thing in the morning every day.
And I would say that I wasn't like always a gym person. Like, you know, like some people, you know, since high school were up in the gym, and it just like when you're young and you're put in that situation, you know, it's really easy to carry that through your life. Like I would say I really got into it I would say probably like last year. And it was like I was going like the year before COVID a lot. And I was probably at like my peak like fitness level right before COVID happened. And then COVID hit, and you know, you're like, but like because I had built up that discipline and that good habit, that like all throughout COVID, I was finding a different way to try to work out and like do it on my own, because I didn't want to just fall out of that habit. So, you know, building good habits, holding yourself accountable, you know, because you can pull one over on yourself really fast.
Oh man, it's actually pretty easy. This is how easy it actually is. It's so easy that oftentimes we be like, is that person fault? Is that thing fault? That's how, that's how easy it is.
You asked me to do this, and it's like, no, you need to hold yourself accountable.
You could have told me no.
Yeah, Exactly. I say that all the time. You could have just said no.
You could have just said no, but you did it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, the side that you wanted most to win, yo, let them win. That's all that happened, you know. And
Yeah.
that thing that you just said right there, accountability,
Mhm.
people have a hard time doing that, taking responsibility and accountability for the
Yeah.
decisions and actions that they make, and that
Yeah.
ultimately brings them the results that they get, you know.
Yeah. 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 We're our own, worst enemies.
Yeah, seriously. And for me, you know, I've been having this talk with my little brother as of late, and
Yeah.
I've been trying to tell him, because this is something that I most recently just realized. It's just
Mhm.
that the greatness that lies with all of us, it comes from self-mastery, you know,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
going within and seeing who we really are and mastering what's best about us. And that's like, to me, like the one of the hardest missions you could accept for yourself
Yeah.
in his whole entire life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I like, you always got to come to that point yourself though. Like I feel like, I've been trying with my little sister and stuff, like, oh, just do this, you got to do this. But like you can't help people who don't want to help themselves. So they need
Ooh.
to, you know, kick their own butts into gear.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
It puts me personally in like a conundrum, because I believe what you just said wholeheartedly, but
Mhm.
also I'm a contradiction, because at the same time I'm doing this podcast, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it is people out there that is actively like looking for it, but you
Mhm.
also have those people out there that know what they got to do, but just
Yeah.
simply choosing not to do it on a daily basis. And not only that, they don't even understand that in the long run it's adding up, and they don't even see it. Like they're
Uh-huh.
stacking their plate up, you know. And
Yeah.
for me, it's just about giving people the awareness to look around and see where you're at right now compared to
Mhm.
where you want to be. Start
Yeah.
taking inventory on yourself, and then implement that plan of what you really are trying to do, you know.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And like even like sometimes I'll be painting and I'm like, I don't even know how to paint that. Like I have no idea. And I will literally be sitting there painting and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm singing to myself, like I'm just gonna keep doing it and I just keep going until I finally like figure it out. I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like something. Let me run with that.
So do you ever like tap into like the flow state when you ever be like painting and stuff like that, where nothing else matters but this painting that's in front of you? That's all you see. Like this is your world right now.
Yeah, yeah. When I did my first Kobe piece, it was also like the biggest piece it was like three pieces that would like made up one piece. And I was like, this is the biggest I've really painted. And like when I tell you I was probably painting 12 hours a day for like 2 weeks, like because I was like hooked on it. Like I was
You was
like
locked
I
in.
yeah, I was like locked in. Like I was like eat, sleep, drink this painting, basically. Like in front of it, and I just couldn't stop. And it was like uh, I just was like, power through it, keep doing it, like until you're done. Like don't waste that energy. I was like, I don't care that it's 8 o'clock and I should probably like be winding down, but I want to paint. Like it's gonna benefit me in the long run to just do it. So
how did that how did that feel, like physically and mentally, like, and emotionally, be operating on that kind of level?
um definitely after that I took like a month off. Because like and balance is so important. So like when I get into like that stuff, like I know that I'm gonna need some time to recover. And like, but there are times like I'll be working on a really big piece and I'm like, all right, I need to take some time off. And when I go to take my time off, I don't feel like taking that time off. And I'm like, well, if I want to work, I want to work. Like, like let me do it. Like, but I'm very aware of like when I'm like approaching like, all right, you're gonna burn out if you keep operating at this level. So I like will have to force myself. I'll be like, let me go out of town this weekend, or like let me get
Yeah.
away from my office so I can actually like focus on other stuff too, because it is important to have a life.
Yeah, for real. So so that means that there was a point where you were burning yourself out and not
Mhm.
giving yourself breaks where it was just like go, 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 go. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I really can't go.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't even want to think about this right now.
Yeah, and it was like to the point where like I was just messing things up. The more, the more I was trying to work on it, and I was like, and then I was getting even more frustrated. I was like, no, this is yourself telling you got to take a break. Like, do whatever you got to do.
How do you know you're at that point? Like, how do you know?
For me, it's like I'm painting and it's just getting worse. Or like I start doing things where like I'll drop my paintbrush randomly, or like I'll trip going up the stairs, like like on my like I'll just knock things over, like I'm not being my normal self. I'm just like messing everything up, like I'm knocking the trash can over, like total accidents.
Yeah.
But like I'm just not in the right mindset to be there right then and there. So I'm like, all right, let me take a break. Like I like if I get like really anxious, or like I'm like I got so much to do and no time, and I start like I'll like spill my coffee over, and then I'll step on like one of my palette knives, and then I'll knock a painting off of the easel. It's like it like hits me like that, where it's just like a bunch of
Train, yeah, everything is just a domino effect.
Yeah, and then I'm like, all right, I need to sit down and meditate and like just calm down and be like, I got this. I'm not gonna have it though if I keep trying to work like this.
That's the funniest thing. That lie we tell ourselves right there when all hell breaks loose, those three words, I got this. To cool yourself off from freaking jumping off of a ledge somewhere.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's just crazy that, when you get to certain points like that, the most difficult thing is bringing yourself back. And I was going to actually ask you about this. Like, I didn't even know that like an artist block can like exist. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, all right, this just gets shut off, So how do you bring yourself back to that point when you feel like you overworked yourself and everything? How do you come back to your work?
Sketching really helps me, or like, there's like different prompts you can look up online, like to like, draw like a weird shape or like a scribble on your paper, and then try to make that into something, like, to get your like imagination going, and like it's almost like a little fun challenge or a puzzle, and then afterwards you're like, oh, okay, like cool, like what else can I do? And you really just gotta, you can't sit around and wait for the motivation. You gotta just make it.
Make it, yeah. See, I say all the time that I believe that we're meant to create in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a product or a service. But I feel as though that's like our higher calling in some way as human beings, is just to create for a better life that's like around us. So you tapping into that, on a daily, often, and expressing that to the world in a way. This is another thing that I preach too, is just that impact is like such an important thing. And the fact that you're even presenting this out to the world, you're having a profound impact on other people's lives based off of what you're doing, and that's an extremely powerful thing, especially in the form of art, which I think is that through paintings and stuff like that, and also music, is like one of the highest forms of expression.
Yeah. Hold on. I was just going to say something and now I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I'd be long-winded.
Oh, no, you're fine. I hate when that happens, when you have a thought and it like runs away.
Oh man, I literally, I go through that literally 24/7.
Oh, I think I remember. I was gonna say, if like I like refuse to accept no as like an answer. So it's like if someone says no, it's like, all right, I'll find a different way. Like, like you're not gonna, like, if I really want to do something, I'm not gonna let somebody else tell me no. Like, let me find another way around this. You don't want, this on your, in your magazine. All right, I'll find another magazine that does. Like, like it, like you just don't just settle for that answer. So I literally just read a quote this morning when I was at the gym, and it was like, whether you think you're wrong or you're right, you're correct. So like if you think you're wrong and you can't do it, then you're right. You can't do it. Like if you think you can do it, like you can definitely do it. Like there's nothing that's going to stop you.
This is crazy. This right here was destined. This episode was destined. You're literally saying almost all the things that I pretty much say in a different way, like all the podcasts. So previously, shout out to Mike, man, that was on the last podcast episode. But I was telling him through a journey that he was saying with him selling his clothes and stuff like that, and him just setting up shop outside downtown in the area that he lived, and people just blatantly just walking by him. But for him, it was just like, they don't matter. It's about the people that actually do come and show support, you know? And also I told him, like, for me personally, what motivates me is literally hearing no, you know? That means that for me, it feels like I'm getting that much closer to hearing that yes. And a doors are opening instead of closing, you know? So that's actually crazy that you actually said that, you know?
Yeah.
It makes me feel as though, like, all right, it keeps verifying that, all right, this is real. You know what I mean? This stuff is real, and our mind is so powerful that it tricks us into thinking that we're right no matter what we're thinking. So that's why it's like very critical to control the things that we think about.
Yeah, no, really. You can think that the crazy thing is you can even think that, you know, this is something you want or something that, you know, you really need to have or something. And then as you're on your journey to get there, you've realized like you are actually meant to do something way bigger than that. And, you know, you take a different path. So it's crazy that you could think that you want something, but you're really on your way to what you really want or what you really need in your life.
That was 2020 for me in a nutshell, to be quite honest. And I know so many people, you know, went through that where they had existential crisis, you know, around between March and like May, you know, of last year. But I was one of those people, and it ultimately led me down to where what I thought was best for me was pursuing my basketball dream and my journey in regards to that. So once the world shut down, it was just like, oh man, who am I? What am I trying to do? And as time went on and I started seeing what really the things that I was passionate about that was deeper than, you know, me playing basketball, but what I was passionate about as a person with characteristics and everything, it just opened the door to so many other things that is just like, oh, wow. All right. I started finding things that I care more about than basketball. And it's just crazy how this journey, if you really, really involved in it, it oftentimes transforms into something that you didn't even expect that it was going to be.
Yeah. And like with art, like sometimes I get like commissions and I'm like, wow, I've never done that before. Like this will be a great time for me to like learn. And then like combining like their wants with like how I paint, you know, also can just create magic too. So
is that challenging to work through those parameters of what the person is looking for compared to the vision that you want as well?
No, I haven't really had an issue with that. Because like like if you explain like, all right, well, like this might look a little bit better, and then you explain why, most people are like, you know what you're doing. Like, please, please, you know, do what you think is best. And then like once I show them, or you know, like I'll be working on it and I'll do what they want, and I'll just suggest, you know, changing it a different way, and they're like, actually that's a really good idea, like, you know, and then they're on board. So I haven't really run into that issue, because I feel like a lot of people are like, I'm not artsy, so like,
yeah, so they just let you just handle everything. So it's just like, yeah, I got this idea, but whatever, I'm throwing it to you. Whatever you decide to do, I know it's in good faith.
I mean, I had one commission where like she didn't really have what she wanted. Like she's just like, this is like what my house looks like, and I want something that'll fit like on this like bookshelf. Like, so I just like ran with that, and I was like, well, like what are some things that you like, you know, and like, so that's really fun, because, you know, I get to run with it, but also I've got like points that I've got to hit too.
So what would you say personally for you is the best artwork that you made?
Ooh. Probably one of like my first things pieces I started when I really started like putting myself out there was like this bouquet of like flowers. And it was just really, really detailed. And I am very detail oriented, so like I like a challenge, and the more detail the better. And like I'm like, oh, can I really make this look like this and that? So like I just like put so much. That one piece probably took me like maybe a month or two to do, just because there's so much detail.
Wow.
And each flower is like facing like a different direction, so like the lighting and stuff is all different on each one. And just the complexity of that piece alone was just like so intense that I feel like that's one of my best pieces so far,
You are extremely like detail oriented. Like the new painting that you're working on, I'm just looking at the progress with that, and it just seemed like the more I keep looking at this dog, it's just like, dang, I didn't even notice the fur on the dog. You know what I mean? So I can see that like you have a keen eye for the detail when you do work and stuff like that, with like putting your lines through and everything. And
and I think I've just always been really into detail, so that's just like a part of me that just comes out in it. Like, my mom would always say when I was little, like I'd see something on the ground and pick it up and no one even saw, and I was like, look what I found, like, like it's like it was like hidden in the carpet or something, like
found the thumbtack somewhere, like in a corner.
or like I have like hawk eyes, like, like I can just see everything basically.
See, but that means that, art was naturally your calling, you got an eye for seeing the detail,
Yeah. And like, for me, it's just so fun to like try to recreate something on a flat surface that's not like flat at all. It's like, how do I build this up? Like, not in the way that you would think you normally would, like if you were to physically build it in front of you.
And when you do think like that,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the, like, I would want to say, like, thought processes like that you be thinking about in regards to, like, for example, the thing that you even said with like the flowers and the lighting and stuff like that. Like it seemed like you're so involved in your imagination, like I said earlier, that like I'm not even gonna lie, that's like such a great place to be in to create,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes, like I'll be like out and I'll look at something. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Like, how would I go about painting that? Like, and I'm like, oh, where would I start? Like, would I start? And then and then next thing you know, I'm like talking to myself in my head for like completely like like too long of a time, and then people are like, are you all right? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Like I'm
I'm literally in my own world. I'm literally in my own world.
I'm learning right now.
So listen, you probably get so much inspiration from literally walking outside, seeing somebody walk their dog, looking at a tree, and just be like,
I was gonna say that's probably, life is probably my biggest motivation, because I'm just like, oh wow, like that's a beautiful landscape. I'd love to paint that. Or like, oh, look at the texture of like this couch. Like, could I make that again in a painting? Like, so bringing that to life via like this medium is like just so entertaining to me, really.
To me, it's like, I can't even stress this enough of how powerful that actually is, to have something in your head that you can see and just like, I have to bring this out some way, shape, or form. It has to happen. And then you go about doing that, that's why like tapping into your mind and your insight of how you go about doing that. So many people can apply this in so many different ways, and another question I would like to ask you, do you believe that everybody is an artist, or some people are?
I think everybody is in their own way, and like art is can be many different forms, you know, like writing is its own art form, cooking is its own art form, like, you know, like everyone is in their own way.
I was expecting an answer from you. I was expecting that. That was a real artsy answer.
Yeah.
But honestly, I honestly feel the same exact way, that
Mhm.
our goal is to pursue that art that we've been blessed with. I feel as
Mhm.
though we all came here with some sort of talent, some sort of
Yep. Yep.
ability that's
Mhm.
different from the next person. That's why we're not the same. That's why everybody, to me, I believe, is unique. And
Mhm.
our sole mission is to bring something in this world that's exclusively, you know, unique to us, but is
Yeah.
beneficial for everybody else, you know,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
tapping into other people and their journeys, especially the ones like that's so involved in what they're doing. Like, to hear you say that you can go out and look at the world as what it is and be like, that's all the inspiration that I need. That's just
Yeah.
like, that's profound, you know? And
Yeah.
we all have that in us. But most people drown out how they really, you know, feel about life
Mhm.
because they are putting up a facade of how they
Mhm.
feel like they should be, how their parents look at them, how, you know, their
Mhm.
spouse look at them,
Mhm.
friend. And
Yeah.
now they're drifting away from who they was intended to be. And now they're
Mhm.
about to live the next like 30, 40 years. Like, yo, I hate life. This shit sucks butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You really can't do whatever what society wants you to do. You really gotta do what you want. Listen to your heart and not let anything else change your mind about it.
mm, that's for real. And for me, even stepping into that sometimes can be one of the scariest things that you can ever do, because
Mhm.
I notice with how unending, and you do too with this journey,
Mhm.
that you reach points where you are like uncertain of yourself. You're uncertain that
Mhm.
you're able to get that task done that you really want to get done. Or
Mhm.
even start off with, you even uncertain that I don't even know if I'm making the right decision with following my dreams, you know?
Mhm.
It's that scary. But
But you'll get an answer if you do it. Like, you know, if you're uncertain, you'll get an answer if you do it.
so when you are like, for example, when you first started this and you was getting that uncertainty, how did you override that and still tell yourself like, this is it, no matter what?
So like if it's like a piece I'm working on for someone else and I'm like, I feel like I'm stuck. Like I send them a picture. I'm like, hey, like what do you think? Like what else would you like to see? Or is there something in here that's bothering you? And just hearing their like input like helps me find a direction. So
Mm.
I'm like, oh wow, I didn't notice that. Like even like some people like think I get offended, but I'm like, I went to art school. I got ripped apart every freaking time I I put a piece up, you know, like a critique isn't gonna tear me down. Like I would prefer you're as honest as like as possible, so I can really fulfill your dreams of what you want this piece to look like.
Oh, so you don't have thick skin when it comes to criticism. How
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
how was
Because
that?
like sometimes you know someone can say something to me and I'm just like that's bullshit. Like you know I'm not gonna sit there and like cry because it hurt my feelings. You know I'm just like I just
Yeah.
don't agree. But like I can see where you're coming from and then you just gotta you know back yourself up if you think you know otherwise. Like there's no use getting offended or hurt by it. You know.
Oh yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
I feel so. This generation now is breeding Mr. Softies, ice cream trucks coming through. It's like,
I agree.
you know, people just like they hear one thing wrong, and it's just like, I'm gonna try to destroy your whole entire life
Yeah.
because you have an opinion about me. You know?
Yeah, and that's crazy. It's so crazy. It's like almost to the point where it's like, all right, I'd rather not even share it with you because
Yeah.
you're not obviously mature enough to handle it. So
No, seriously. And with that process, like you going through art school, that seemed like that was a challenge in itself, you know? Was that process, I would want to say, discouraging when you was hearing stuff like that, or in regards to some of the stuff that you was working on in college with some of the works?
yeah, it's discouraging, but like you just have to realize like it's from a place where like they're trying to make you better. They're trying to, you know, make you improve. So like if you're gonna be mad and closed off to it, you're not going to improve. You have to like take it in and then interpret it your own way. Like, you know, if you like don't completely agree, like try to at least see it from their point of view and see if you can understand it. And then maybe you'll be like, oh, wow, you'll open your eyes to a completely different like thing. Or even like when like I'll be like working on like if a professor's like, well, you know, you got to fix like this or something, like I'll like start fixing it and then I'll see what they meant, like because I edited what I did to, you know, be what they needed. So it really, you really have to be open-minded. You really can't.
What did you see a lot of people I want to say like drop from the art programs because of stuff like that, like their art was being overly criticized?
Yeah, I've seen it happen, you know, or like they just don't want to listen. They're like, okay, well, like I'm not changing that, and then you know you're gonna get a bad grade, and it's like, what was the point? You didn't learn, you didn't get, you know,
Yeah, stuck in
yeah,
your ways.
yeah, you're gonna stay in the same spot, and it doesn't benefit you, and then you're just hurting yourself. It really all turns into that.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you this. This is gonna be one of the couple of last questions, but how important is your artwork to maintaining the highest form of yourself?
It's who I am. If I don't paint for a couple days, like, you know, some weekends I don't paint, but like if I don't paint for like a week, like that's like I see it affect me in other ways, like, you know, like, wow, I'm like really like hostile or angry or something, and it's because I wasn't like able to just like, you know, paint and get my shit out, like,
Yeah.
and have that like one-on-one time with myself. So it is who I am, and like it's nothing I can do about it. You know, I can't just never paint again, you know what I mean?
No, I totally understand. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's about getting people to understand that feeling that you
Mm-hmm.
know that you have in regards to doing what you doing. And
Mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form, I believe that we do have that. And it's about tapping into it as
Mm-hmm.
often and as frequently as you can without, you know, killing yourself in the
Yeah.
process. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know for points like you're so invested in what you're doing, like you said earlier, that it can lead
Mm-hmm.
to you being overly exhausted because
Mm-hmm.
how much, you know, you're tapped into what you're doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that it's more important for a person to get to that point rather
Mm-hmm.
than not even be aware that they can get to that point at all, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always trying to, you know, go the extra mile. And then that starts with like my gym mentality where I'm like, oh, like push yourself a little bit further, push yourself a little bit further. You never know how far you can go until you're pushed yourself there. And then you're like, wow. And you realize you can go a lot further than you even realized.
Oh man, I like this dude named David Goggins, freaking psychopath. You
Yes,
know
yes,
David
yes.
Goggins is
Yes,
running
I
in the
do.
rain with his shirt off,
Yeah.
bald head. But yeah, that's my
Yeah.
dude right there. But I seen something with him where he said that most people quit at 40% of
Mm-hmm.
where they think they at. So say like they're on a treadmill and they get to
Mm-hmm.
that point where they feel as though they're about to like check out on the treadmill. But
Mm-hmm.
he said that that's the point of them reaching their 40% and they think that
Mm-hmm.
that's all they got. But then
Mm-hmm.
once they pass that threshold, it's like, oh man, it's like a whole new world of potential opens
Mm-hmm.
up, and then you know you get this energy boost out of
Yeah.
nowhere and
Yeah.
everything. So I know from like the gym experience, it probably give you that vibe as well.
Yeah, I'm always pushing myself like to the edge, you know. Sometimes I'll like this morning I didn't want to go to the gym, but then I went, and then I went way too hard.
Turned
And
into
then I was
sandy
like, oh, I'll
cheeks.
definitely have to take a break tomorrow. Like, you know, like I was like having a hard time walking up the stairs afterwards.
Oh no, you're definitely going to be feeling that tomorrow. There's no gym
Yeah,
day
yeah.
tomorrow. There won't be no gym day tomorrow. But that's good though, you know, because
Yeah.
that speaks to your work ethic, and that
Mm-hmm.
also speaks to the character and the standard that you hold for yourself, which
Yeah.
to me is just like it correlates to your artwork. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I think your artwork correlated to the gym, you know,
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
pushing yourself there. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm really big on, and with some of the questions that I even asked you of people taking those things that they passionate about and care about and applying that to different things that, certain things that we probably need improvement on. Like, for example, if somebody having a hard time with their diet, but they're really good at, I don't know, computer programming. You're gonna, if you take those things that you applied from computer programming and apply that to your diet, you'll notice that it's the same format, to getting good at, often everything that we learned is a skill that we have to work on. A lot of things just don't simply come naturally.
Yeah. And it's the small steps, like maybe you go to the gym once a week, and then the next week you go, like the next month you go twice a week, and you just build it up. It's sometimes it's a slower process for other people, and sometimes it's faster, but just starting really is all you can do, and then you'll know where to go from there, because you've got a basis.
Yeah, you got a baseline, and to me, that's always the most important part. It feels as though when you do take that first step, it don't tell you necessarily where the end is at, but it always tell you what that very next step that you should be taking is. That's for sure. And it's just seemed like that envision that we have for ourselves is that light that keeps us going, but it only shows us the next step. It don't show us literally how to get there,
Yeah.
So winning those small little battles every day is like taking that one little baby step to get closer to that vision that, we have.
Yeah.
And I think that as long as we just keep taking those baby steps, I have this thing where you should have a destination that you should be going to, like an ultimate end goal. But then at the same time, you should have like many destinations along the way to make sure like you're making track to get to that. So for example, like with what you just said, if you want to go to the gym and lose, X amount of pounds, it'd be cool if you're not in the process of going to the gym every day, start with 1 day a week, then go to 2, the next following week, and then, if 3 is going to be too much, do 2 again. But make sure at some point you get to 3. It's always about that progress.
Yeah, it was actually the other week when I was working out, I was like, wow, this is actually a little too easy for me now. And I'm like, I had to up my workout, and I was like, oh, wow. And then I was like all happy and excited that
No, seriously. And for me, I'm so huge and big on challenging myself because I have this thing where I want to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I don't want to be, comfortable with being comfortable because crazy enough, it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It sounds
you're like suspicious. You're like,
Yeah. I'm not doing anything. Something's about to go wrong.
Yeah.
So that's like, for me, it's just like always managing to stay in that uncomfortable zone and be comfortable like in that place, because I feel as though that's where your growth is actually happening. Just like growth don't seem like it happen when you're comfortable.
And I love change. So I'm like, oh, like let's do this, let's do that, let's try this, let's do that, and I realize not everybody is like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like, for me, it's just like
yeah.
But, like I'm not even gonna lie, I'm not really big on change, but sometimes like, well, at this point is more often than not that if I really do care about something and want to do something and it requires change, then it's like, well, this is about to be it. I don't really care at this point,
Yeah, you just have to be open to the obstacles that are going to be thrown at you.
Which is unavoidable, which is inevitable.
Yeah, it's going to happen at some point or, some way. So the faster you are to get on your feet, the better.
Yeah, and for me, I feel as though accepting that that's what it's going to be is also one of the most beautiful parts of the journey as well, because you ensuring that no matter what you face is not going to stop you. You're going to get through it. You're not going to turn around. You're just going to make something happen,
Yep. And then what's that saying? It's like, before it gets better, it's going to get worse. So it's like when you're right in the thick of it, you're like, damn, why the F am I doing this? And then that just means that there's something great on the other side of that obstacle that's going to show itself, and you're going to be so happy that you did it and you powered through it and you completed it when you get to that other side.
Oh no,
It'll all make sense.
seriously.
Yeah.
And for me, I would want to say that after the fact that's when it actually hit me, and me just going through the process and not really thinking about what the end result is going to be. Because for me, sometimes that can be discouraging when you first take those steps up the mountain, but then look at the top of the mountain, you're like, I'm more closer to getting down to the bottom, you know? Yeah. So for me, it's all about like, looking at what the very, very next thing is, and also just falling in love with the whole entire journey in itself, the good, the bad, because it's just like both of them is going to be inevitable on this whole entire process.
Yeah, the journey's the journey is the destination. Let's put it that way.
That was the best way to actually put it, And last but not least, where can the people find you and where can they see your artwork?
So my Instagram is at Kassandrawall_art. And then my website is just Kassandrawall.com.
All right. As you guys know, I'm going to be putting all that information to find her in the description below. And also, Kassandra, I really, really thank you for being on this podcast. It's been a pleasure, especially to have our first artist on here, and to go in the mind of an artist is an awesome, awesome thing. You definitely provided some amazing insight and also advice for people that's out there, pursuing their journey. And also whoever's out here that's listening that want to be able to become an artist as well. You're a pioneer, you're a trailblazer for it, So I really do thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. And for everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this podcast episode, please like, share, subscribe, review, do whatever, and Kassandra serving her purpose, serve yours. And thank you, everybody. Love y'all.